and if it is proven that everything you believe in is not true, what do? Within us, there is a consciousness, which is subconscious, that was there before we ever came into our human body form. Our subconscious could have been the part that is supposed to be triggered through the conscious mind. And it comes out, and that is what life is all supposed to be. If it is supposed to be like that, then none of us as human beings has ever lived, because we are simply coming and simply existing. You wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you go to school, you do this. We have a program. Living is about following a pattern program and living.
Do your time and move on.
on.
Welcome back again to our channel. I'm Ibrahim Kasasali again, here to have a very nice chat with the doctor. Now, Doc, I kind of enjoy our talks because they're enlightening and they cause one to think. But I'd like you to throw some more light on the human void. Because when you look at it per se, it looks like, it's a small void, needs to be filled. But Doc, can you throw a little more light on what is the human void and what it is not?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I think I'll go straight to the point and say, if I'm to look at the human void in terms of how we have been discussing it and what has been going on so far, if you follow all our series, the human void is something inherent in all of us as human beings. And as human beings, usually we have questions towards events and meaning of certain things that happen to us in life. The minute we cannot understand the meaning behind why things happen, then we take it that life is meaningless when we do not understand the circumstances surrounding us. But in order to understand the human void, it is more or less an avoiding of the authentic self of a human being. So as a result, we've created an alternative reality in our psyche, which is psychology as human beings. And this that we have created is what we've termed as the basis of our life and the way we do everything. But the human void per se, if you want to know that every human being has it, this is how we go about it. Let us imagine everything you believe in is not true.
Oh my.
Okay? Everything you've believed in up to this age where you have come up is not true.
It's not true.
Okay? If it was the case, and if it is proven that everything you believe in is not true, what do?
Like any other human being, look for a way to escape.
Okay, so that is the human void. Inherently within us, if we are to look at what life is and what it does, we see certain things in a way that we are afraid to go within. So we've created things that prevent us from what we fear the most.
Okay.
Do you get what I'm trying to say?
I get. Most people don't want that feeling of feeling bad deep inside.
We avoid what we do not know. And the reason we avoid what we do not know is because a human being can only accept what they can comprehend.
True.
When they cannot comprehend something, then they usually say it does not exist. But in order to comprehend something, you must be able to perceive it. In order to perceive something, you must be able to experience it before you even perceive what it is. Now we are in a dilemma as a human race, where 90% of our brains is subconscious. Only 10%, they say. But in some psychologists, like some scientists like Bruce Lipton, he actually says the human consciousness, the conscious part of our brain, is 98%. So only 2% is conscious. And then the genius we have, like Albert Einstein, if you're to look at him, he only used 4% of his conscious brain. That means an average John, an average Ibra, an average Asha, whatever. They are basically not thinking. Because what is actually happening is we are using also the subconscious brain, which is partly programs, okay, which have been passed on to us, and experiences, what we can comprehend, what our little brain can comprehend. Whereas 98%, we don't know what it is. Now here is the puzzle of the human DNA, and in terms of understanding the human void. Human DNA today, there was George Church, a scientist. He got a book, downloaded it onto human DNA. Then he got it off again, put on another one. He replicated a book 1 billion times, and human DNA could take all that information. And apparently human DNA is as large, it's such a hard drive. We are really moving hard disks or hard drives, if you can talk about it. And it is as old as about 13.7. It is also expandable, by the way. If in your conscious brain you get to encounter an experience, it also goes in your subconscious brain, and it will be a program to play on and on. This is how you learn: do not touch fire, it will burn you, because you've experienced it, and then the subconscious will record it. So our memory has 13.7, about 13.7 now, billion years, DNA. Meaning it is as old as the universe itself. Do you know what that means? We had in our body, the human being is 200,000 years old. Meanwhile, we have a DNA of 13.7, about 13.7 billion years. The puzzle is, as people who have ever lived in this world, the first people who lived in this world in terms of when we are looking at human history as a species, we have Homo erectus. Those were the first beings that lived on the planet Earth. Then we have Heidelbergensis. Those are another ancestor and an ancestral species. Then we have got Neanderthals. Neanderthals are now those ones that gave birth to the modern Homo sapien. Now for us, we are the modern anatomic human being. We are like fourth generation of having lived on the planet Earth. So now this fourth generation, we are called the modern anatomic human being, or Homo sapien sapient. This is what they call it. Now the Homo sapien sapient, who is me and you, the modern anatomic human being, is 200,000 years old. But I want to emphasize, we have a DNA which is as old as the universe itself, and it keeps expanding. Do you know what it means? Within us, there is a consciousness which is subconscious, that was there before we ever came into our human body form. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Within us, there is a consciousness which was before we came into human form 200,000 years ago. Do you get the picture? I
get the picture. For lack of a better word, the soul.
I don't know, but we are calling it a consciousness.
The consciousness.
Because soul now is more like spiritual. Me, I'm talking logically.
Okay.
In this particular aspect. So what this actually means is that our physical brains do not have the capacity to comprehend anything about our subconscious mind. So whether it is habits, whether it is programs, whether it is whether we are following what has been told to us, it is nothing. We haven't even yet begun to think. Even if you're to say our brains, consciously we are 10%, not even the world's most genius person, who's Albert Einstein, even took it to 5%. Usually he's counted at 4%, 5. He's just 50% of that. So we are at that. If Albert Einstein is 4, an average human being is what? 1 minus 1.
1.5, give or take. So that lack of information and wonder and the lack of knowledge of not knowing what was there and is part of us creates kind of a void.
Now the void, when we are talking about the void, is this.
Yeah.
First of all, let us go a little bit before I come to answering your question. Let us try to understand a little bit more about what all this dynamic is about.
Yeah.
Now, tapping into who we are, because the void comes when we don't know what our authentic self is. So we have created how to live within the 2%. In other words, the 2% in Luganda, they say akasale kubo. We have that kasale kubo, which is 2%. In other words, it makes us only be able to know that we need to eat, we need to cultivate our food, we need to wake up in the morning, we need to wash our faces, but it's not really fundamental in giving us the questions we have around our being. Who am I? What am I here for? Why do I face what I'm facing? Why do I have this problem that I'm having? Why do we die? Why do we fall sick? Why do we... All those questions, when they are not answered, a human being finds life to be meaningless, and that is a human void. But now, many scientists have gone ahead and they've said, look here, the key to understanding a human being is understanding the information of that DNA in the subconscious, the 90%. is what can make a human being very different. Meanwhile, other scientists are also going on another angle and saying, wait, now the ultimate technology to beat is a human technology. It is a hard drive. So they've gone ahead and looked at a human being. What is this human being? What does a human being have which is different? So you know what they've done? Now we have a chip which you can put in your body and keep your secret information, the same way DNA does. So the modern science and technological inventions we have are copying the ultimate technology, which is the human technology, though it is soft tissue and muscle. And then they are making this, and this is now modern day science and technology. Now, others are saying, like Bruce Lipton, how do I get my subconscious also overpowers the conscious brain? Now they are saying, doctors like Bruce Lipton, they're saying, now how do you get into your subconscious? Because when your consciousness is small and your subconscious is bigger, the subconscious can dictate anything and you'll go and do it.
Definitely.
Because it will overpower the physical one. So you have a life where there is what you want and there is what you end up doing without wanting.
Subconsciously. Like
subconsciously. It is like a program. It's like a program. It just comes in. So you're living a life which is not fulfilled. We are still explaining the human void. Because somehow you want something, but you always end up getting the opposite of what you want. Because there is a program in the subconscious brain, which is the 90%, which is driving your life. Now, doctors like Bruce Lipton say, now you look here. Let us, when we are sleeping, let us go into this wave of the mind, because it's an energy wave, which is called theta. As we are sleeping, we get these affirmations, we say this and this, and then it goes in our brains and we'll say, I want to do this, I want to do this, until that subconscious, which is not awake, is able to see. And when you come out, it will be like a program within your subconscious that will make your physical reality come the way you want it. So it is more or less using the subconscious into the reality. That is another angle. Then there is another angle. They are you know, when you want to demonstrate the human void and the subconscious and its power, you look at, have you ever seen someone sleepwalking?
Oh, yes.
They can navigate an entire house without opening their eyes. They can get out of bed nicely, knowing I have a blanket on, and I remove it. And they can walk softly, go open the door, they will not knock a single thing.
I've heard of cases where they go to the fridge, grab a bite, and go back to bed. You wake them up in the morning and say you were sleepwalking at night, and they do not remember what they did. Do you know what I'm trying to tell you at this point? The subconscious can see beyond what the physical body is able to see. Do you get what I'm saying? No,
so now they are hypnotherapists who, if you want to know the truth of a human being, you go into the subconscious. They go and then they try to put you down. They try to make you remember what was at this incident. And then they get into your regressive memory. And then they get to understand this is it. There were people like Dolores Cannon who was an expert at that and trying to find out what is this that was before a human being was, that is on the disk of that is on the DNA of the brain before even a human being ever came into existence 200 years ago. And she wrote one hell of a book. And this book involves human beings having been what we are calling aliens today. Do you get that? So the unknown is our subconscious. And the unknown that we fear is actually us as human beings. Do you get the puzzle?
Yeah, I get the puzzle.
So the reality of what this, and by the way, all these things we are talking about may seem like they woo and it is out of this world. But in reality, the US CIA, 7th May 1987, there was what they call a Cold War. It was also called as a psychological warfare between the Soviet Union, by then Russia, and USA during the Cold War. They used subconscious technique, like you're sleepwalking. How to use a vision to such a point that you can see what is happening in a certain technological site in Soviet Union, using a person who's using the subconscious to view them. Do you know what they call it? Remote viewing. This is what it is called. So there is an example of some gentleman called Pat. He was a remote viewer using this subconscious, like sleepwalking. They asked him, they gave him some pointers in CIA. This is documented. Just put in Pat. If you check on Google engines and you say CIA and remote viewing, you'll be able to see these things. So this part goes and looks at and is able to even inform the CIA in USA, an intelligence organization, that there is even a tank which is at that particular site, technological site, intense technological site, at that place.
And he's sitting in America.
They've given him some pointers. The place is like this, and you can't imagine with all the technology they have. Now when we talk of CIA, it has everything. CIA was not able to see that there was even a tank, which Pat was describing. Later, some time passed, and they were able to see in that place when they visited that actually the remote viewers saw more than the technology they could use to spy on the Soviet Union. And there are several instances where they have used this in order to gather information using the subconscious. So the truth that all of us as human beings and the capabilities that we need and the technology that we need is all about discovering who we are. What we fear, which is unknown, is us. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So the human void is about us not being authentic. Authenticity would be that we get the 2%, of course, a perfect design in terms of software technology as human beings. That design, the creative intelligence that designed all of us, couldn't have made a mistake that our subconscious is just a tiny bit and our consciousness is a tiny bit and our subconscious is the biggest part, So what is actually happening here is our subconscious could have been the part that is supposed to be triggered through the conscious mind. And it comes out, and that is what life is all supposed to be. If it is supposed to be like that, then none of us as human beings has ever lived, because we are simply coming and simply existing. You wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you go to school, you do this. We have a program. Living is about following a pattern program and living.
Do your time and move on.
So there is no way we even know what to live means.
If you put it that way, loud and clear.
You get it. So everything we think we fear, it is us that we are fear. Our subconscious could have been the part that is supposed to be triggered through the conscious mind. And it comes out, and that is what life is all supposed to be. if it is supposed to be like that, then none of us as human beings has ever lived, because we are simply coming and simply existing. You wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you go to school, you do this. We have a program. Living is about following a pattern program and living.
Do your time and move on.
And move on. What the world is, it doesn't know, because it's not even 4%. So it is an issue of the blind leading the blind.
Okay.
Do you get what it is? So this is, in a nutshell, what the human void is. And this is what we are scared of, that 90%. That we dare not go. Because you imagine if we were in a place, in fact, the biggest illusion, still in the CIA, they could use the subconscious mind, which sees away from the physical, to even, let me say there is a George somewhere, and I want to influence that George. There are techniques they would teach these people, and they can change the mind of that person from where they are seated, using their subconscious mind. That means even who we are could actually be an energy. When you come to understand a human void, there is no human being you don't know. And there is no human action you can't predict. If someone is saying they are lying, they are hiding something, they're only lying to themselves. But it is all hidden in plain sight. You get what I'm trying to say? But we shall expand more on what a human void is in my book, because I think now finally I've finished. And I think and I think by the end of the year it would have come out, and you can see where the human void manifests itself in interpersonal relationships, in all kinds of fields, in that way. Although another thing that we have to know, like I talked about how those who did past regressive memory, we are looking at, as part of us, aliens as part of us, as us actually, not even part of us. The reality is that there are things in this life that we are scared to learn, because we are scared that everything, this is where we began from, everything we know, if it ends up not being true, then what are we going to do? It's the worst puzzle that you can imagine. You're right to fear it.
Humans are naturally afraid of the dark.
So
if you were to enter and look through that void, do you know how deep that rabbit hole goes?
There is this man, this philosopher called Rumi. He said the cave that you fear to enter may have the treasure that you seek. And this is the human dilemma. But then we also have to understand, like the last time when we were talking about the series, we talked about aliens, and everybody thought the extraterrestrials, that these people are, I mean they are gods or whatever. No, we just fear them. When you fear something, you put it in another way, in one way or another. But what played out in the courts in the US was that it was all about advanced technology. It is very possible that there were beings before us who had an advanced technology beyond what we have today. Remember, we only just came to this world 200,000 years ago. The universe is 13.7 billion years, about that. You get what? So to claim that the late entrants, we know a lot about the world, or we are the only ones, is really out of someone's mind.
Out of context.
Okay. So today, in the modern day Renaissance, we are even having to change our definition of what civilization is. Today we have modernization, but is it even worth being called a civilization? Because there is a certain gentleman called Kardashev. He made a scale of the 3 types or levels of a civilization. The first civilization is a civilization that can use all energy on its planet. Now, for us, we haven't even known. If we are just getting to look at subconsciousness now, and some people have used it, but in a hidden way. Really, you want to tell me we know everything about energy? Scalar energy, which was by Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla is a scientist, a renowned scientist. He made electricity. And he discovered that once you tap into the ground for free with certain techniques, there is a lot of energy that can charge as little as this top cover. It can charge an entire house or even more of that type of energy. And it is free. But we are using fuels, oils, fossils. We haven't even gotten there. And that energy is here. The whole battle which was showing up in the US Congress hearing with extraterrestrials and aliens, it was all about technology. They were beings in another planet that had the technology of these UFOs, the flying objects, which doesn't even have a screw. How do they do it?
And all evidence was presented.
And every evidence was presented. So, but when it is demystified and then they tell us, these ones are there, they are coming to kill us, really? If they have that advanced technology, why had they killed us before? Because within a short time, they could have finished us. You get it? So in the modern times, what has been redefined is what is civilization. It's when level 1, people within a certain civilization can use all the energy and store it on their planet. That's the planet Earth. The second level is when they can store energy on their planet and also use it, and also another planet. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And that is interplanetary. Then the third level is when they can be able to control the energy and also store it and use it on an entire galaxy. Like now this Earth is on the Milky Way, the entire Milky Way. That is what is called civilization. So in as much as we are modern today, we are not even civilized by any scale, according to Kardashev. Because the whole concept of understanding life is about energy. It's about understanding that we actually have that power to transcend as a civilization, to go all those kinds of ways. And we are not talking things which are demons. I believe those are different. These are human beings with blood. Because according to the hearing, when you get to hear, they were biologics which were gotten from, which were remains actually. Alien autopsy, let us say, and they were buried somewhere. If they were that superior, not like us, they knew something we didn't know. They would not have been killed, they wouldn't have had blood, and they wouldn't have been buried. But now the Congress ordered dig out these bodies of the extraterrestrials and bring them. So now the after effects are all about that, and then bringing out all the people who are using this technology, and we try to see what next. But what is really happening is that although we haven't known about it, there have been diplomatic relations between people in other galaxies and people here. Beings in other planets and those ones here. So the human void is, who are we? That is a question you can ask someone today and they will not know even what to say. They will say what they do, what they have, what they studied, but that question, what their names are, whether they are married or not. I am a married person, I am this old. Are you really that old? When you have a DNA of 13.7 billion years? Isn't even an age an illusion, So that is the human void. But somehow we have to work with it. And the modern day is bringing a lot of these things at the forefront. Whether we like it or not, we cannot hide the reality anymore. The mere fact that this is about the modern the modern times and Renaissance trying to become more civilized by acquiring more technology, and as far as it's concerned.
Okay, Doc. Now we've seen the human void. Every single African being, every single European, Australian who's listening to us says, yes, now there is the void. And we know what's not the void. What and how is the point of transcendence? Because it looks so easy. Say, void, there you are. Void, come. But there has to be a small step or way in which a person begins to...
I think the simplest is to start by asking ourselves the right questions. Because when you ask the questions in your conscious mind, you tap into your subconscious mind. So you begin asking questions like, who am I? What do I want? Why do I feel this way when something like this happens to me? What am I afraid of? What is scaring me? The more questions you ask yourself, the more to authenticity you become. Authenticity is owning what you're feeling and wanting to go beyond and understand what is behind this feeling. Then that is how you're closing the gap of the human void and getting to authenticity. The minute you begin asking the right questions, the subconscious has all the answers that you actually need in feeling that. That is in a simple way. Although in the book that I'm writing, I write an elaborate way of you do this, you do that, you do this. And also put your life on a scale. Because we fear that darkness inside, just like we'll talk aliens and we fear them, but aliens are us. Anything subconscious that we do not know is inside us and we're afraid of it. Can they tell you what life is before even life ever began and it is coming out of you and you don't freak out?
I'd run a mile and
But the reality is, you definitely have information inside you, which is more than 200,000 years ago.
So all it needs is to tap it.
All it needs, begin asking questions that bring you back to the inside of you, not what brings you outside. And all our lives are all about living outwardly. They are not all about going within. So that is the first key to asking all these questions. Of course, with these books, it's big. We shall elaborate. It's almost 400 pages, by the way. So we shall elaborate this and this and that and that. And then you can get to see what exercises you do, which questions you ask yourself. Because it has questions that actually lead you. It has more questions than answers. Because the more you ask yourself, the more you open your subconscious and you'll find the truth within yourself. Not anywhere outside of you.
It will all end up to one thing. What would you do if you were not afraid?
It can also be that. But also it can be that you cannot hold on to what you know. Because you really don't know. That is also the reality.
Even the little you know.
Even the little you know is also not known. Because all of these things, even if they tell you, brush your teeth, these are learned habits out of people who simply survived. So anything passed on to us, whether it is an economic system, whether it is a political system, whether it is what, it is a survival mechanism. Even the United Nations is a survival mechanism.